It's the third topic for the day, AI in action. And we're going to talk about both the digital banking side of things, lending side of things, and really look at AI in action, right? Uh, my name is Nikhil Gokhale. I am the head of research at IBS Intelligence. Some of the slides that you saw in the morning were made by our team. And, of course, we went through 5 rounds of versions. So, so it was interesting, the trying to glean every insight from every data point, right? That's our job. So, on my panel today, I'm going to welcome Trambakeshwar Vatsa, fondly known as Vatsa. Vatsa is the Chief Technology Officer at NCDX eMarkets. He is responsible for technology strategy of commodity and derivatives marketplace as a whole. Welcome.
Thank you.
Next, Sujit Sinha, EVP at Kotak Mahindra Bank. He's a career banker, done almost everything right from payments to lending to consumer banking. His claim to fame to be on this panel is he's the author of a book called Revolutionizing BFSI with Generative AI. And he wrote that book, I don't know, it's already published. The second book is on the way. But if he's already written the book, that means he's done the research about maybe a year or two. So I don't know when you started your generative AI journey. So he says 2 years ago. Fantastic. Third, let me call Indranil Pandit. Indranil is the Chief Digital Officer at Federal Bank. He leads bank's digital innovation and transformation efforts. Indranil, welcome. Just to add, it gives me more pleasure to welcome Indranil on stage because Indranil happens to be my school batchmate. So we go back more than 30 years. He was always the studious types, by the way, you can see by his looks. So he was the one, always the first ranker. He was the one we always wanted to beat, but never could. So Indranil, welcome on stage. I will reserve the toughest questions for you today. Last but not the least, Rajesh Mirjankar. Rajesh is the MD and CEO of Kia AI. And, what better panel to be on, right? The name has AI in it. His claim to fame as a company was RegTech platform. And now they have several award-winning solutions, right from digital to core, and all are powered by AI. And as I said, they were AI even before AI became famous. So, welcome. Straight into action, huh? So, Vatsa, I'm going to come straight to you with the question which says, what are the emerging AI use cases that you have maybe used, are using, and which are really transforming financial services?
Okay. So first of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'll take a techie view here on the AI because AI, in my view, there are two separate segments. One is the AI before the GenAI. GenAI, the entire discussion of GenAI started probably 3 years back. But before that also, there was an AI. There was a data science, analytics, and a lot of work was happening on the AI, on the IT side, and most of the banks were leveraging it. So if I have to take an example, the journey of AI is probably 30 or 40 years back, where we started looking at data. We realized data is the new oil. And in some or the other form, the data started becoming, becoming the central part of the entire IT theme. So it started with the data warehouse phase. It moved into the data lake. Then it started moving into the data mesh and now into multiple data strategy. But the whole idea was there is a lot of information sitting in the data which is valuable to business, which is not being tapped as of now. Now, suddenly what happened in last 3-4 years is, earlier, I think somebody mentioned in the first panel, earlier when you used to interact with a system, you need to have the idea of coding. You need to have an idea of Java. But suddenly, now with the likes of Alexa, Siri, or Gemini coming in the hands of a common person, you can interact to a system in your native language. Currently, it was limited to English. Now it's vernacular. It is going into different kind of languages also. So suddenly the power, it's almost like people realize, oh, there is a powerful powerful system which is there in your hand, which can give answer to anything and everything. And that is where the misconception starts happening. When a business person starts talking about IT, looking at information from a GenAI kind of a source. So I believe this is a powerful technology which has come to everybody's hand, but it has to be handled very carefully. It is still probably 5 or 7 years down the line before you can completely rely on GenAI for the accuracy of the information it is giving. Right now, what we have done, at least in NEML, is in last 1 year, the entire IT development, we have started taking the advantage of GenAI. So starting from, let's say, the idea phase, where a lot of discussion happens, we used to be dependent on Gartner reports or probably the consulting reports. Now, probably it is very easy for a person to get those views from one of those Gemini or ChatGPT. I mean, in fact, they'll give some kind of a very customized, tailored report which could be used to start or kick off any kind of idea. Then from there, let's say going into the BA phase, the business analysis phase. Earlier, it used to take months to get to a right version of a document. Now with Gen AI, if you are sitting in a meeting with a Teams or any kind of software which could generate or summarize the entire meeting, that software could be used to create the first iteration of a BRD or a FRS document. That itself is a big game changer, especially in IT, because it takes the entire effort of documentation completely away, from the people. So people actually can concentrate on the agile process of IT, which again gives a lot of value to the business when you are dealing to the end customer. Third is the coder itself. Now he can rely on multiple co-pilots, which right now generate codes much better than an experienced 10-year-old coder. Now that is a big game changer itself, and which I think most of the fintech companies are already leveraging, and I'm sure banking sector is also getting that benefit. Fourth is, again, on the testing side. So I'm talking about how in the entire IT segment, this is currently being leveraged. It's not something which is far-fetched. We are already leveraging GenAI as part of our entire IT delivery ecosystem. Then comes once the code is deployed, the code moves into either one of your data center or cloud. Now, earlier, there were a lot of questions on cloud being expensive. Now, that is where a lot of activity is happening on the AI ops or the ML ops or the FinOps, where looking at the past history of data, a lot of activities are happening, how to reduce costs, and it's in large extent, it is actually helping us. So these are some of the use cases, especially from IT perspective. In banking, I'm sure people have already mentioned contact center, customer experience, financial crime. These are something which were leveraging AI for almost 20 years, if I am not mistaken with the numbers. So there are defined use cases which are already leveraging, and it will continue to leverage the generative AI power for all these use cases. The last segment, probably, since I am from the commodity exchange, AI, which I think Ram mentioned is 28% of our entire GDP. Government, at least on the agriculture part, they are coming with a lot of DPIs. AgriStack is one of them. And they have a big AI programs for the next 4 or 5 years. There are policies which has been created by Maharashtra government, by UP government, and the government of the center. And they are driving this digital transformation in agri and the AI adoption in much faster pace compared to banks. So that probably is another segment which might be indirectly beneficially to banks who are looking at credit financing for the MSME markets. So thank you.
Super. You got the connect between the agriculture and the banking, given you are from the commodity exchange.
Yeah.
So it was perfect. And I completely agree. I think AI, sometimes when we talk about AI, it can be misunderstood as one monolithic technology, some magic happening. But I mean, honestly, it is actually a lot of small use cases coming together and creating a bigger impact. Just anecdotally, if I may add, Vatsa, I was on a panel, and one of the panelists told me, give me a story, which was he went to his team with a requirement of creating an app. Okay, the team said that it will take 6 months for the app to be developed. Okay, probably they kept some buffers. Okay, and they decided to use GenAI.
Right.
Believing that they will probably get 50 to 60% of the code right, and to their surprise, they were able to generate the app in a matter of 2 days, and it was a perfectly working app. So that's the kind of power when it comes to software development that we're talking about, right?
Agree, completely agree.
So I'm going to take that use case thought over to Rajesh first. From a banking perspective, drilling further into banking, right? What are the use cases that you are most excited about? And I will also want you to look at it from the other side. That is there too much excitement about things? And what will happen maybe, how do you balance that reality with the integration cost and, the security concerns, right? So, starting with use cases and then looking at the excitement of use cases.
Yeah. So I'll start with excitement. I think there is more excitement at the global stock markets about AI than actually IT companies and banks. The banks and IT companies tend to take a more measured approach around AI, and I'll just delve into that. I think when we look at AI adoption and rollout of AI, it's important to look at architecture first and then AI, because when we look at the components that define AI, most successful AI implementations that I've seen across the last 2 decades, importantly, have been those where the data elements are solid. So when you look at compliance, for example, in regulatory technology, AI has been used now for 2 decades, and it's perfected to the point where we are talking of efficiencies of 85% on false positives, etc., being achieved. And banks have tremendously benefited from that, because you are having the cost-income ratios, especially on regulatory management, get much more efficient overall. So when we adopt AI, it's important to look at saying that, your data architecture is good. There was a talk earlier in the earlier panels about data being in silos. Abhijit mentioned this, right? And that's a very important aspect to say, how do you orchestrate the data? It's not about bringing across one dream project about putting all data together, but it's about saying, can that orchestrate together to form a sort of a emulation of a customer journey? Second point is obviously the security aspect. I think GenAI brings across the ability to generate code, but in most cases, banks will not be able to responsibly deploy this straight away in production. The reason being that the same GenAI that rolled it out in production can also help another hacker or whoever with that same code. And that's why it's necessary to segregate what you want to achieve with generative AI or vibe programming and what you want to achieve as output from the bank outward. Let us put it this way. What you want to achieve with AI, banking is simple, but customers' needs are complex. So when we look to address the customer's needs, it is that part that generative AI can resolve better in terms of the reasoning models being able to achieve that output. So I think segregate that, keep that aside and say, okay, the reasoning I will resolve to saying what are the feasible and viable customer journeys that will come to address a challenge, right? So contain the excitement, take it there, and then say, now I've got an output that I can service responsibly, and then look at your architecture, APIification, data segregation, and make sure that is serviced. So I would say that is one element to go about it. The other part is banks are regulated entities. So as much as you can have an output being given in a customer statement, and there's one case study in Australia that a customer asked if this is free, and the AI responded yes. He won that case in the consumer court that the AI said it is free, so it should be free, right? So remember, when it goes across as AI being used for the front end in banks, banks are regulated entities. So the output needs to be clearly measured, and that's where I think the aspect of explainable AI comes through. Why have you taken a decision in that particular manner? How did the AI come to that point? What were the data inferences, etc.? And I think that's where a lot of effort needs to go into understanding the data in the backend, understanding the business process output that was supposed to be achieved, and then aligning that with the customer need. So I think that my answer sort of takes away the excitement, but I think eventually when we look at orchestrating this together, it can be really exciting.
Oh, I think the detail is about execution. How well do we do it? I think that's going to be the differentiator going forward, and it's
absolutely
because the technology. I think everyone knows that. The use cases are going to be, they're not going to remain secret sauce for too long, right? So I think it's the execution. How well do you do it day in and day out? That's what's going to matter. And we use some nice words, explainable AI and things like that. But one of my ex-managers actually put it very simply. He said, "Whose throat do I catch?" Right? If something goes wrong, whose throat do I catch? Right? And I think that's what explainable AI is all about. So okay, use cases. We talk about use cases, and Indranil, as I promised, I will reserve the toughest question for you. Okay? We talk about use cases. Is that the right way to go about thinking about AI when you want to implement AI at scale in any bank? Not necessarily. I'm not wanting to, tell us the secret sauce at Federal Bank, but when you want to achieve AI at scale, is use cases the way to look at it? Because we started use cases, and I want to ask that to you as to, is use cases the way to look at it? Of course, maybe at the start, but how do you go from use cases to AI at scale?
So, Nikhil, to my mind, use cases is the only way to look at it. For the simple reason, any system which is not built from the outside in doesn't work. I mean, I always give my team this example, it's very, in a bank, there is always this tension between the techies on one side and the business people on the other side. The techies want to build it because, oh man, I need to build this. Why? Okay, because I need to build this. It's like the guy who scaled Mount Everest because it was there. The business guy is always to answer his board or her board saying, why am I building this? Where is the ROI going to come from? And what is the real reason for building this? Now, the techies, if they build the Taj Mahal and then nobody visits the Taj Mahal, then everybody is, after 3 years of a lot of money, time, tears and effort, sitting at some level at the board or somewhere below the board, saying, why is nobody visiting the Taj Mahal? Because the people didn't want the Taj Mahal, they wanted the Eiffel Tower. Right? You built the Taj Mahal because you wanted to build it. Now, AI, all of us have to understand, is a tool. It is not a be-all and end-all in itself. I think one of the formal panelists made a very interesting point saying AI has been around since the 60s. It's not new. Generative AI is something which came in 3 years ago, and it's a very, very new animal. It's basically, I'm probably kind of making some controversial statements, but it's a very well-known statement. I think Mark Benioff made it, so it's not exactly that it's my original statement. It's autocomplete on steroids. But suddenly we seem to be saying, AI is generative AI, which is not the case. Agentic AI is even more nascent, and we'll probably talk about it. There has been discussion around it, but that is even more nascent. But the real key is, what is the use case? At the end of it, how is it adding to my bottom line? How is doing something agentically more value accretive to the bank and to the shareholders, vis-a-vis doing it at the other extreme, doing it manually in a branch?
Before I ask the next question, I do need to remind you that you are a techie and a business guy, because you've done your bit of
Jack
coding
of all
as well.
trades, master of none.
You've done your bit of coding as
Just
well,
being
right?
polite.
So- Okay, so even as Inaril, you were answering, I saw Sujit nodding in some parts and then shaking his head in some parts. So you want to also take on that question?
See, I'm always on the optimist or happy side of it. Okay, very optimistic. Okay, why? Because see, as Vatsa said, that AI is nothing new, right? And the practical use of AI, we have done the machine learning, right? We have been doing since ages. Now the generative AI, from predictive to we are moving to generative, right? Now generative AI has opened multiple fronts, right? Now embedding them into a workflow, you can create agents, right? That's what Niril was talking about. So and it's accelerating fast. I'll give you one example. If today's newspaper, there's a big funding news. Anyone can say? Which company? Not TCS. That's too big. MoEngage. MoEngage has raised 100 million, right? What MoEngage does, right? It's a communication platform, right? It helps, they have built multiple agents, okay? And these agents do what? They personify customer, they curate campaign for the customer, they trigger the campaign from the customer, they pull back the output, put it back in the engine, and it's moving fast, right? So that's what my point is. It's here, it's accelerating fast. Okay. Now, why this will, in India and in our BFI space, the things will move very fast. I'll say last 2 months, we all know that 3 regulatory inputs have come. One is free AI framework. Second was an overall framework guidance from on AI by MIT. And the third was few days back DPDP, right? So there was always a supply side. That is, a lot of fintechs were doing amazing work. Okay, and banks and large institution was hesitant to quick adopt. With the framework, there is a supply side. There's no dearth of supply today. We have the brilliance of the minds out there building things, and they're building things which is crazy at times. Now supply side will open up big time, because if bankers know that this framework hai, I have to do everything in this framework, he'll go and execute it. In absence of that framework, I'll not do anything at all. Tomorrow someone asks me a question, I don't have an answer to it, right? So again, straight to the positive side of it, we are very, very positive times on this, and it will evolve fast. Okay. Another thing is, see, today banks have, in all the banks, we see they're facing multiple challenges. The 2 challenges: cost of acquisition, cost of servicing, right? Margins are going down, competitions are high, right? If your customer whose cost of acquisition is X and cost of servicing is Y, are you able to generate revenue which is more than X plus Y, and at what duration? And today it was not that we go 15 years back, a bank ke alawa customer jayega kahan? Today you have Grows. Taken Grows and Zerodha has taken entire customer. Then you have Phone Pays, Google Pays, and similarly lending fintechs. Okay, so we had a lull period of lending fintechs. Now we see Snapmint, right? They've just raised funding, right? We knew suddenly the lending also getting acted, right? So banks will have face pressures. Adoption will be quick. You have to manage your cost of acquisition. You have to manage your customer service, servicing a customer, which is ballooning today. A customer doesn't break even because of 100 customers, 70 customers attrite within a year in banks. How do you quantify that? Okay. So my take is, yes, there is a regulatory positive, there is technology positive, there is a need positive. Okay. So this will change this landscape in next 12 to 18 months very at a very faster pace than it was previously.
So, what I'm hearing, and I think this is, coming from people who are seeing AI in action, is you need to be sure about, you need to be cognizant. I wouldn't say sure, but you need to be cognizant about the ROI. You need to be cognizant about, will it make money, if not immediate, but at least in the longer term, right? Without which, pushing anything is not going to be that straightforward, which is, I think, clearly coming from experience that
absolutely.
You've seen, right?
Absolutely.
So, fantastic.
And it is a productivity tool in a single phrase. If AI is nothing but a productivity tool, you have to make it productive. It is not going to come and stand and make itself productive. You have to bring which workflow I have to bring in, what value it will create, what cost it will cut, and in that process, my value to the customer should not diminish. Okay, which Virat was saying that, customer is demanding, it will remain demanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, before I turn to my last question, I'm going to check if there is any question in the room, that any burning question that you definitely want to get an answer before going out of this room. Any hands going up? Do I see any hands going up? I don't see any. So I'm going to be the one asking the next question, which is going to be the common question. And, I've told my panelists before, I've done multiple of these moderations, and I've always told my panelists that I have a tendency of going off script and going off syllabus. So my last question is, you spoke about, the chat GPT or GenAI being autocomplete on steroids. Let me just take that word forward and say, how would you react to the statement, agentic AI is AI on steroids, and that's what we're talking about all the time. So is that going to be the future of AI? And if yes, how long do you think we will see this? So this is a common question. I let each one of you decide the order. Who would like to go first?
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay, Sujit goes first.
Okay. The question is, I'm getting it out, is agentic AI future and here to stay? And it will evolve positively, right? Let me put a case. What happens when a bank has to run a campaign to you, right? For example, bank ने बोला कि मेरे को personal loan का campaign चलाना है, or maybe any campaign which we have to run. There is a team who decides कि okay, I have to run a campaign. Okay, there is a team who generates the data. Okay, both are separate teams, both are not the same teams. There is a team. Then it goes sequentially to a team who will generate the collateral. Then it will go to the first team, okay, I'll vet. Okay, this collateral is right. Then it goes to the fifth team who will shoot the campaign. Then it will go to the second team, post-campaign data it will pick. This is truth. This is it happens. And in this process, 45 days are gone. भैया दिवाली निकल गई, अब क्या offer देगा? Right? So this is a practical problem. Now, what agentic AI enables, okay? And I give an example of MoEngage, okay? And even, Adobe has this, agents which, you can use and do all this. You have customer data where the agent is personifying the customer real time. It is curating the, a campaigns based the persona. It is triggering the campaign. The campaign gets triggered. The feedback is coming back. in the feedback, what happens, it will replace the hypothesis, or it will establish the hypothesis, and it goes like an engine. How does it help? You have 4 teams, okay, and 4 or 5 people each in that team, 20 people running a campaign for 20 lakh customers, or maybe whatever number, and getting some output which is still not clear kiya aayega kya, and lag, which is happening real time by maybe 2 folks who is overseeing this, and maybe a human in a loop who is just checking that collaterals are aligned to the regulatory framework and shooting it. Will it help? It will not help.
It will. And how long will this take? 45 days before and
45 days can be done in a day or 2 max. और अगर bankers रहेंगे और super वो चित्ते खेलेंगे बोले 3 दिन में करेंगे, थोड़ा और check करेंगे, because regulatory है, डर के करना है, तो 3 दिन में करेंगे.
It is on steroids. It is on steroids.
Yeah.
So
it is.
So same question.
And one more last sentence.
Yes, please go ahead.
We talk about agentic, agents. These are the independent agents. Now their framework, when multi-agent framework are evolving. There's no strong use case which I have seen in at least B5 space globally. A lot of agents we have seen, but when multiple agents start collaborating, you get the agentic phrase, and that is the next level of.
He's writing a book. He needs to know all these words. So spare him. Indranil.
I think very valid. I think agentic is probably very nascent right now, but I think it has the power to be super disruptive. And I'll give you a few building on what was discussed just now. And I'm going to make again a few controversial statements, but bankers are used to lazy banking, right? Or lazy money, and I'll explain what that means. My salary comes in, it is in my account, it stays in my account largely, and that is what most business models are built on, and that is why people spend a lot of money to acquire customers under the hypothesis that salary aayegi idhar hi padi rahegi, and that is how it happens. Now imagine if there's an agent which pulls data from the account aggregator, you give it a one-time consent, it goes across all your accounts every day or every hour or every minute, again, depending on how the councils allow it, and it sends you a message saying, if you had done this, you would be earning, or by not doing this or keeping money here, you're losing 100 rupees a day. Do you want me to park this money in a liquid fund? If yes, it is just don't do it. Your float is gone, right? And these are all very real scenarios right now. Yeah, these are not science fiction. I was getting pitched by a startup, very young guy, very entrepreneurial guy, just yesterday. He said, we want to build an agent in your credit card workflow, which makes your entire credit card usage journey very smooth, and hence the hypothesis was that people will use your credit card more. I said, I have a little bit of concern on this, because if you draw this line back, ChatGPT is already bringing an agentic workflow where saying you start the shopping journey on ChatGPT and then I'll tell you where to buy. What is to stop somebody from saying, and today I can right now trigger an agent and say, go in the market, look at all the credit card offers and come back to me with the best offer for dining at, say, this hotel here. I just stretch that line a little bit. I also tell the agent, these are all the credit cards I have. Now match the two and tell me which credit card I should use, and also pay using that credit card. Out of the window, because if my offer is not the best, it will say this is not the best offer, somebody else's offer is the best. So I said, what happens to that? He didn't have an answer, but to fairness, in all fairness, he said, I'll come back to you with an answer. So that is the level of disruption at a business model level. See, all of us talk about AI, agentic AI as efficiency tools, and rightly so. And that is why most of the use cases that people are experimenting with right now, except for the uber popular chatbot, which everybody seems to have for optical reasons, is efficiency. And that is a very real kind of scenario. Coding, people spoke about reducing friction in operations, fraud detection, all those are efficiency gains, they add to the cost saving. But the real business model disruption, to my mind, is going to happen at the cutting edge of customer experience. If you, again, one last thing, if you draw this line a little bit even lower down, you can build a full agentic AI stack, and that is where people are saying that agentic AI will eat software, a SaaS. You don't need to define any workflows hard and fast. You will have 6 master agents or 7 master agents or orchestrator agents. You just need to keep plugging agents below that, and you just express your intent saying, I want this to be done, and that agent will figure out whom do I talk to, which agent do I talk to, which MCP do I invoke, and what do I do. I could go on and on, but I think
so.
I'll stop now.
I think what I'm hearing is, yes, there is a top line that you need to think about. There's bottom line that you need to think about. But more importantly, from a longer term perspective, it is literally the disruption, being disrupted completely. That is a very real thing that you're seeing. What's up? Same question.
So, so in my mind, there are two realities. One is, see, in banking, there is always a drive of achieving STP, straight through processing, and that's something not new. So anything which we develop, at least in IT system or process, any process which we plan, is always looked from a perspective whether it will achieve STP or not. Only in exception scenario where some regulatory guidelines are there, we go for some kind of a manual touch point. Now, STP is where we want to reach for most of our processes. Second is, so STP, so to achieve STP, I mean, right now the reality, if I take a parallel analogy, you right now have UPI, and UPI came 10 years back. Before that, there are a number of payments methods which were popular. But today, I mean, if you see the growth which UPI is having compared to, let's say, credit card, RTGS, IMPS, UPI has a very different tangent line of growth. Now, what it means is friction as well as straight-through process will always be a driver. Now, how agentic AI is helping you is, I mean, it is helping you to outsource anything which is not so critical to your business. So, as I think Indranil mentioned, once you tell to your chatbot what you want, everything on the back end is decided by this agentic AI, because they have this cognitive power which earlier was missing in the previous version of robotic process automation, which is the previous journey of agentic AI. So in my mind, it is not a question of why agentic AI, it's why not agentic AI. And it's just a matter of probably months or years when we start seeing a full-scale rollout of agentic AI apps or services which would be used by customers.
Wow. So, I think you use a very interesting word, STP. I think, whenever you had a decision rule engine, you could definitely do STP, and that was easy. But, when there was no, specific decision rule engine, you could not do STP. But I think agentic AI is now the STP for things which cannot be put in a particular decision. So I think it's a great point that you connected STP and agentic AI. So interesting. Rajesh?
So I'll go with the fact that if you look at the evolution of how technology adoption has happened within banks, right? You look at the fact that in 1990s we had vehicles, so people went to the branch. That was our technology. So branch networks expanded. 2000 we had internet, so we started having internet banking, and that's how you access the customer. 2020 or 15 onwards, we've had the digital revolution of smartphones, so we said bring banking on the apps. So it's a no-brainer now that since the customers have adopted AI in a big way, banks will have to adopt the customer's AI. So it's no point of bank thinking unilaterally saying, this is my AI framework. It's not going to work. Banks would need to build agents that can service their business efficiently and service the TAT, because TAT is where, you suddenly have built in that legal element saying, I have 15 minutes to now delay the process because I have taken 15 minutes as reasonable. So resolving that with agents is going to be key to say that TAT becomes 0 or near STP, as Vatsa mentioned. And then looking at saying, how do you orchestrate these agents to talk to the customer's AI? ChatGPT is an excellent example that Indranil gave. But there are going to be more models, because let's remember that the customer is always going to know that an AI model that is designed by a bank is designed to make profits for the bank. And so the customer will want to say that if I have spent time training a model at my end to run my business, why don't I use that to communicate with the bank? So the bank will now have to look at a split model of how they go about. The agent is not just looking at transaction. Agent will have to look at the negotiation to say, how do I give the best offer? And that has to be autonomous. So we have to get to that stage. And the agent has to then communicate, because it will have to say, what have I understood the customer's requirements? It's not just about throwing the best offer, but have I packaged it rightly that the customer comes back to me? Or is it going to be a, what happens with the apps that have offered cashback? You use them as long as they're cashback, but if the service quality isn't good, you move to the app that was always there on your app. So that's going to happen with AI as well. So to make it consistent, I think what's going to happen is that agents will have to be very efficient, agents have to address the problem, agents have to negotiate, and agents have to communicate.
Awesome. Really well summarized, beautifully summarized. I think, we used to talk about air, water, food. Anybody remembers the fourth basic necessity? Wi-Fi, internet. So I think it's going to be the fifth basic necessity. ChatGPT, I think, is already the fifth basic necessity. It stops for a day, and then you know how important that is. But I think you're talking about the sixth basic necessity, maybe a year from now, where it will become a basic necessity, which is agentic AI. So I think with that, thank you so much for being so generous with your thoughts, your real-world experiences. Thank you so much. With that, I draw a close to our beautiful panel. Thank you so much.